A while ago, I did a video detailing a lot of the legendary drops that you can get from different bosses and creatures around the Exiled lands. As Conan Exiles has a plethora of different legendary drops to be got, and some much better than others, I made a guide. But that guide is now outdated because they have changed a bunch of stuff. So here we are today, going over a lot of the different legendary and subsequently just better-ish stuff you can get from different mobs around the map, and where to get them. Starting off with not technically legendaries and not technically drop from bosses, but you do need to kill some boss-like creatures to acquire the things to get them. They've recently had the Khitan traders caravans added back in, and they've got some new stuff to purchase. So you can get some of the Mad Prophet things, which are pretty cool. I'm wearing the top currently. It's my favorite. You can skin it onto other armor with a Thermagurgi bench. We've also got the Tiger's Truncheon. If you knock out sorcerers and bring them to these caravans or bring their skulls, you can get up this pretty easily or do the correct dungeon. The Tiger's Truncheon is quite a good truncheon. You can also get the Dead Woman's Tresses, rather. It's a binding, and it's a very good binding, much like the binding of the undead, but even better. And we also have the Misplaced Guardian's Will Breaker, which is a fairly decent, in fact, make that very decent warhammer. If you've been doing the Sunken City dungeon and getting all of that good stuff you can get in there's a lot of decent recipes. I do have a different guide on that fully details where to get all those recipes and where to get the pearls you'll need. But if you've been gathering up those pearls and wondering where to spend them, come up over here to Buccaneer Bay and over to Flotsam. Climb up to the highest little rung and you'll find Shamala, the Pirate Queen. She will give you Stygian alchemy as well as the sword. If you wander over to this guy, he will sell you some entertainers and some archers as well as the shield. They used to be much better when they added stat bonuses, but for cool looks and skins mostly now is what you're gonna want to be wanting them for, because they are pretty cool looking Cthulhu-y situation. But yeah, they're not a very good sword, but worth mentioning. And if you want to look like a giant warrior, minus the kitsune ears there from a mod, Exiles Extreme, it's quite easy. I do have, again, a full detailed guide in my recipes guide, but you want to come over to the Mounds of the Dead and kill a couple of bosses in this mound and this mound and this mound, somewhere around here, and gather up the pieces and talk to a guy, and you can get this, and you just go up to the Frost Temple and craft it up there, unless you happen to have other mods installed that like enable you to craft it at home. But usually you got to go up to the Frost Temple to craft it. Aside from looking pretty cool and being a decent medium armor that adds some alright stats, mostly just use it for a skin. Now these spots only require a bit of killing and a bit of patience because they are random drops to get potentially. Our first stop is over at Sinner's Refuge, one of the better known locations. You can get yourself a lovely little set of Azura armor. It doesn't have any cold or heat bonuses, but it is free, and well, that's something. It's light armor and can give you a bit of a buff early game, considering these guys are really easy to kill. And you can often find name dudes and a lot of brimstone here. It's one of my favorite spots to come farm dudes early on in the game because there's lots of random spawns. But if you've got what you want, you can potentially, well, it happens to be a Mitra priest this time, but you can potentially find someone dressed like me, and they'll be in like a named carpenter or a named someone. If you don't want to tame them, kill them, and they'll usually drop a bunch of this armor. Similarly, heading over to Zaltha's Refuge, it's a little bit harder, but the armor is a little bit better. Same as the Azura, you don't get any cold or heat benefits, but it is medium and it is all health rather than a random distribution of different stats. So again, it can be a nice little boost to your game. Simply fight your way through. These guys that are named have a potential chance to sometimes drop it, but these guys don't usually. They're a little bit of a fight, like I said, so don't probably run in here naked. You don't even basically need to fight the boss anymore to get a beginner set, but it will all be damaged and you cannot repair it. These guys will drop some, but it's way less often. Make your way all the way down here. There's a couple of boxes here and there that you can find full of some random seeds and gold and silver, and you'll find this chosen guy. Kill him. You can potentially get his weapon and you will get fully repaired, usually one piece, and sometimes an extra random piece or two. Sometimes you'll even find a set, but it is usually only one piece that's fully repaired. You can get lucky and get a couple of bits, but yeah, if you really want that and much just for looks, come here. It is to be noted that you cannot dye the Sobek armor or the Azura armor. If you want your chance at getting a fancy witch doctor who is basically a really big good at life alchemist, if you don't want them, kill them and you can get your chance at getting this fancy ass mask here, which just looks like a Yogite mask, but in fact is the mask of the witch doctor, giving us extra health, follower damage, concussive damage, a bit of armor value, but it is also a gas mask. Head on over to the summoning place. Right up the stairs, you can find a couple of name dudes here and there. This guy will either be a Yog Archpriest or the witch doctor, and he won't always drop the mask, but he might. Today, he did not drop the mask. Making your way up a river in the new beach area, you're gonna stumble along eventually a little cave here on the right. Bunch of spiders out the front indicate a little cave dwelling, and a ghost doing some ghosty bits. Come into Skittering Oven. Fairly easy fight to be had. Lots of silk, lots of ichor, lots of chitin chitin. And usually right here we can find ourselves, there we go, she popped in, a spider boss. Quite an easy fight. She'll either drop us a Numidian helm or some Akabani bellies. Today she dropped us both, so that was sick. Akabitanin, I cannot say anything in this game. And the helm of the Numidian, which used to heal stuff as you got hit. It still does, but just not legendary weapons. So if you have your weapon out and you're getting hit by stuff, it'll heal that weapon's durability, but yeah, like not legendary stuff anymore because you cannot repair any legendary stuff anymore. Came up to get a bunch of demon blood and a skeleton key. If you use a pick, you will also get a bunch of ichor usually, and that skeleton key can be used to get some other legendary weapon. This cave actually counts as a dungeon, so it has a legendary key box in it, and we got the Huntress, which is a type of bow that you can get out of any type of these legendary key boxes. It's not specific to just in here, but usually can only be now found in dungeons, but not this one. This one's really easy. If you've been having fun venturing into spider caves and getting brimstone at the other cave of the Asura armor, you can come to Executioner's entrance and make a combine of both of them. Over here near Sully's ambush, we can find Death Whisper ruins, Executioner's entrance, and our alternative entrance just here. The other one is over there. Make your way in. Lots of stone, lots of metal, lots of brimstone, lots of spideys, bunch of skeletons, a couple of little boxes in here. And this guy here is a cousin of the brute in the unnamed city, who we'll get to a bit later. He's a decent fight. I highly recommend taking out all the skeletons and spideys first because they can clusterfuck you a little bit. So he will either drop a legendary shard or a legendary shard and this fancy ass hood, which is heavy armor and does give us some strength damage value, but it's not that great compared to a bunch of stuff you can craft. But if you're able to take this guy out with some of the legendary weapons you may have already got from some of the other places, then you can pick yourself up this hood because it might be better than whatever you have. I do enjoy the Executioner's weapons, especially when you're killing just a lot of shitty mobs, as they tend to take out a percentage of their health when they're down low. No, not quite as good as certain other weapons because you cannot put stuff like poison on them, unfortunately, because they already have that execution stat bonus. But as free weapons go, not too bad. If you like the idea of venturing around in the water, well, just your luck, they've made it easier than ever. But you still have to come over to Buccaneer Bay and find yourself some animal tamers, usually looking like this, wearing their hyena armor. They will always drop an underwater mask now, which is pretty cool. Before we had to head over all the way over, there's also some more up there, all the way over to the other side. Bloody long ass mission if you're not flying. Come kill Tamos. You can still tame Tamos, but he's no longer one of the best thralls. He's decent-ish. He still drops it, but he's not always here, and apparently he has a chance to drop Sobek boots because I guess technically he's wearing Sobek boots, so that's a fun little acquisition that I only just learned about now. You can get some headsets of Jebel Sarg just for decoration. While you're in the bay, you might notice that these one skull cursor dudes around. They will drop the black cursor silk as well as some cursor armor, and occasionally we will get black cursor sword and sea salt cutlasses from them. You can also dismantle these boots and whatever else and get more ebony silk from them. Kill this one. Whoop. Yeah, he didn't even drop a bit of armor. How rude. And right in Flotsam, we get a chance of potentially one of two bosses. I don't think both of them are here at the same time. We will get the cook guy, or we will get some other fighter dude. To be fair, the drunken bastard guy. I don't remember his name. They might both be here. They might random spawn now. They might not spawn because I am in god mode. Usually he's really annoying when I'm trying to come up and touch the pirate cuisine recipe just up here. I don't know where he is, but he can drop the broken glass if he's the drunkard, or the chef's trusty cleaver if he is the chef. You cannot tame either of them. We are now going to get one I think is the most outbalanced to get weapons. Head on over to Hanuman's Grotto. You can bring a bunch of hearts and get some potential gorilla-like yeti dudes off him, or probably a bunch of potions. But if you kill Valus the Loyal, you can get Staff of Hanuman, as well as Silent Legion armor. He'll also drop a heart, and the Deep Drink Water Skin sometimes, which is kind of fun. Deep Drink Water Skin lasts a little bit longer than your regular, but his weapon is not that worth getting considering he sucks to kill. But a couple of dudes who are way less hard to kill and their weapons are way better. Head on over to the unnamed city area and go to the bridge at the Southern Aqueduct. A little bit before halfway, you're going to find yourself a skeleton. There's only one skull, and as you can see, he has like no HP. Super easy to kill, and 100% of the time, as far as I know, will drop the Eye of the Watcher. There's a couple of other ways you can get this baddie, but he will give you some cold resistance, enabling you to get up to the volcano a little easier. There's also a fiery version of the Scorpion Ward, which you can get from the Silvermine dungeon. I have a full separate guide on that dungeon, but it's located over here. She's basically the boss at the end, and she'll usually drop that. While you're in the area, make your way over to the den. It will be a little bit more of a fight, but super worth it, as you can get a lot of named guys here and a lot of backpack bearers that you can either get their loot or tame them up as bearers, and a fair few sorcerers to farm. You can also get a pretty decent dance if you haven't been here before. Sometimes in the middle here, we will get a one skull guy that we can kill. He today is not, so he will not drop the weapon. And in fact, it's actually two separate dudes, and one will drop the Doom and one will drop the more of the Hyena, unless they have changed that, because I don't come around killing this guy a whole bunch, gotta admit. But the Doom's pretty decent for considering how easy they are to kill when it is actually them. They only have a couple of thousand health, I think, if that. I do have a separate guide going into depth on a lot of these caves, but head on up to the snow. Most of these aren't unlocked on this playthrough for some reason, but all up along here you can find different little caves that will have these Jill Skexy guys at them. A little bit bat, a little bit crow. If hacked up, they will occasionally drop hollowbone arrows, and there's various different bosses where you can acquire yourself a hollowbone bow, or an unwelcome gift, or an act of violence. We can also find a boss that can drop a bunch of these fun black blood tools, which are some of the best tools in the game, although not really that much anymore, but still good if you're using oils of bounty and all of that. The specific boss to fight to get those black bloods is located right up here, pretty much on the line right before the corner. And he's pretty much straight away. Woo! If I don't get stuck in all the teeth, right here. Not too hard. If you hack him up, you can get a legendary key, which is quite nice because there is in fact a legendary key box right here. Also, I don't have a legendary key, so I better hack him up quickly. It's also a good source of black blood, potentially, if you need that for making acid arrows. There's also the location of learning acid arrows. Well, not here, amongst these caves. See my actual guide for all of that. But the first cave we were at, known as Lockstone Cave. Going down to the end, you'll find another boss. This is where you learn those acid arrows. He'll always drop that, and a relic fragment and a key. I don't believe he drops a key when you hack him up. And right back here, we will find another legendary key box. We're getting a lot of bows today. A lot of bows. But if dungeon crawling is a bit more your thing, well, lucky for you, that's where you have to go to spend your legendary keys to acquire most of these guys. Now, most of these guys aren't really that useful for you to have because you cannot repair them. There are some exceptions, like the Mistmon, which gives you a lot of heat resist, and the Spell Spoil, giving Soul Spiel, rather, giving you a lot of cold resist, some other fun ones like the Glimmer Moon that glow, Gavin's Rusty Pike does some disease, etc. There are some worthy ones here. One that could come up very handy in the future would be the White's Blade, because it is better at killing skeletons with its spectral coating. The Blade of the Adventurer, the Watcher, and Jebediah's Greatsaber, still some of my favorite greatswords. Jebediah's Greatsaber also glows, so that's fun. But this is not a video about boxed legendary weapons. There are in fact a plethora of weapons you can get without boxes in those dungeons. Making our way over to Waterside in Sepimeru, we can find a little door on the back of Conan's house that'll lead us into the wine cellar dungeon. Our first little encounter will be with a guy named Seth, and Seth has a chance of dropping a really nice truncheon. Although you can now hand in a bunch of sorcerer's skulls and get an even better truncheon guaranteed, probably do that. But it's pretty likely that you will get it fairly easily. He's not that hard to kill. Don't let him hit you. You can kill him really easily. And get yourself a free trunch. Most sorcerers do drop a truncheon now as well, so that's worth noting. It just won't be a Seth's truncheon. Within this dungeon, we also get a chance to get Pristine Kari Bow, Pristine Kari Sword, and Pristine Kari Daggers from some of the bosses along the way. As well as at the end, you get a potential chance to get some other weapons that I'll go into a moment, and the recipe to learn the regular Kari weapons. Here's one of the guys. We got ourselves a Pristine Kari Sword and some Kari Steel. If you see that, you want to gather it up. You'll get a lot of fragments of power from this place. Some decent boxes around. Usually a Kari Steel box or two. And these two are key boxes for legendary keys. Yeah, there's a couple of these dudes around. They will mess you up if they hit you if you're not built right. So probably bring a thrall, especially now that they're re-resurrectable. So that's kind of fun. We got some Pristine Kari Daggers. We're having a good run with that. Maybe they've made it more common. We got my man down here at the well. He did not drop one. And then we also have one somewhere. Well, can't find the fourth guy. I'm disorientated, but he's somewhere around in a room. Little corridor. Head on up to the end. There's a couple more bosses you can fight hereabouts, but meh. Light all these fires and kill Thag. Avoid the skeletons, because once Thag dies, they will all die. And get your chance at getting a Mace of Thag, a Hammer of Thag, or a Scythe of Thag, which all look pretty cool. You might get none of them, but you will likely get a recipe for some Kari armor or weaponry. Now, none of these weapons have amazing stats, especially now that they don't add a bonus. This is still pretty decent, although they've changed their moveset. They're still worthy because they're practically free and you get them while you're farming the dungeon anyway. And it's a worthy dungeon to farm for other stuff. One dungeon that is worth a repeat doing multitude of times to farm the weapons is over here at the Warmakers at Khalil's stronghold. We get it right near the Brimstone Lake. Do have another separate fully running this dungeon guide, but you do get a chance of getting some of the best weapons for legendaries in the game. The beginning guy is going to give you an Axe of the Gate Guardian potentially, which is really nice. I love it. It gives thunder and it's an axe. It's sick. It is this guy right here. Keep going. We've got a couple of rooms. You will have to do all of them initially, but you can avoid this middle room eventually. This first room, we're also going to have this boss in here now too, which is an unnamed city boss, and he can drop any unnamed city-like weapons because he's a skeleton. But we'll go into that a little bit later when I talk about the unnamed city. This is who you're looking for. Kill him and there's 100% chance he will drop a weapon. Along with this Renaissance, one of my favorite warhammers. We can also get the Balius, the Maudlin, the Nordis, and the Renaissance. Collect his little statue and hack him up if you haven't already. Some people come and just farm these couple of bosses. The middle guy basically just drops a statue and some other crap. I don't even think there's a mini boss in the middle here. There's not. You don't need to go in there if you've already got the key. And then we go into this one. And we're going to find ourselves a Blood Defiler, which is another way to potentially get ourselves a Watcher Blade. I have the Watcher. It's different. And a Disease Pike, but he can also drop the Berserker's Fist Blades. But yeah, they're pretty decent. He's really easy as long as you avoid his Sundry attack. He's so easy to take out. And this guy is going to drop some of the better weapons. Today, we got a Ymir's Targe, which gives cold resistance, much like our Scorpion Ward from earlier. So you could use that in combination with the Watcher Blade and get extra cold resist. But we can also get Deketo's Voice, From's Hammer, Yog's Dog's Touch, Jebelsark's Prowls, which do a heavy attack on light attack. If you didn't know, now you know. Mitra's Justice, and Set's Tongue, which cure a lot of different ailments. Like if you are drunk, you can put them on, you won't be drunk. If people are using buffs, you can poke them and then they won't have buffs anymore. That's nice. If you choose to go further, there are a couple more bosses you can fight in here for some, well, there's a butt ton more bosses, who am I kidding? Heading on down here, you get a chance of some pretty dang average, but used to be really good weapons, the Worldbreaker or the Annihilator. Today we got the Annihilator. They both used to have 100% armor pen, so that was psychotic, so I can see why they changed that. And it's still a pretty decent thing considering free weapons. There are a bunch of guys to fight along the way. An undead dude. I'd never fight the arena champion. I just run past her, by the way. She's not worth it. There's an undead skeleton. There's some mammoths. There's some legendary boxes in here to be had. There is a yeti that you can get behind here. Gotta use a pick or something. This won't do it, I don't think. Literally gotta use a pick. But you can find a yeti behind there. If you go in this store, you will find the Warmaker himself. And he can have a chance of potentially dropping the Carnage or the Destroyer. Once equipped, they're going to give you insta corruption at exit creative mode, which is a good way to quickly gain corruption, or if you are using a corruption build, they're fairly decent. I don't recommend using them or wearing them, but you can mess up a tribe mate with them, much like the Black Feather Helm, which can be found in our next location. All those fragments of power you've been gathering up from all that boss killing, it has a couple of uses. You can either consume it to get yourself some knowledge points, which I don't really recommend right now. What I do recommend is taking them in to the Library of Esoteric Knowledge over at the Archivists in the Unnamed City, just here, right by the obelisk. You're going to get a chance at learning a whole bunch of different recipes. You get something called a Tablet of Power. If you do want more knowledge points, craft those and eat that. You can also talk to him and get the oils of bounty and all of that. Concussion, powerful oils. For 5 fragments, it will cost fragments to craft them, but mostly we're on the lookout for these weapons. I like me a dead leg because it literally just costs a leg and a fragment, I'm fairly sure. Most of these no longer require a fragment like they used to craft. You can get yourself 2 warhammers, a table leg as well as that dead leg, a couple of poison things like a pike, a great sword. You can also get a reinforced stool as a mace, and axe. The only axe you can get is the infused venom axe, the battle spatula, and the grave digger. And we also had the venom infused pike, the venom infused sword down here. I don't know why that's down here. We have the glasses. We have Havoc and Malice, which used to be really cool, but they've got a unique moveset. The whirlwind blades, and the venom infused daggers. You can also get a Yogite chosen mask, which is a little bit less good than that witch doctor mask. It's just basically a gas mask that looks like it. I mean, it's a pretty useless practice swords. Good for skins though. So the battle spatula is basically a mace. Then we have the grave digger, which if you ever find graves on Sifter, you can use grave diggers to dig them up. Also same if they have them on Exiled lands. Our Havoc and Malice. Our whirlwind blades. Woo! Yeah, they're kind of the more unique ones. Ugh, I'm so corrupt. Well, dug your way out of the Archivist in the Unnamed City, you're going to come across a bunch of different bosses. A whole lot of skellies, which all hold a very similar loot pool. Usually you can drop it down here and run down this way and fight this guy. There is pretty much 100% chance to get a drop off these guys, but you'll always get fragments of power. And I'll go through what the skeleton's loot pool is once I show you where they all are. I don't remember their individual names. Then right next to the obelisk, we have this room straight to our right. Ooh. And a little box behind here. Used to be our only way to get legendary repair kits on a reliable basis. Now you can't even use them. It's good stuff. Right up here, we're going to find another skeleton. Beep. And over this way, I do believe there are only 4 skeletons around. Oh, I didn't actually show you where that was on the map. My bad. But essentially the guy that you talk to is just down there. The snake boss is in that tower. You can climb up pretty difficultly up here. I usually just don't fight this guy. Right here. And over here, we're going to find a white who's a bit bigger than our regular whites. but still holds the same pool as the rest of the skeletons. There are a couple of other various bosses, like some dragons that do not drop stuff. Like this dragon here, I don't even think it drops a key anymore. It will have some random stuff in its inventory, which may help you gather up more stuff if you don't already have a weapon, but usually I don't bother killing this guy unless I want a green dragon head. Same with the other dragon over here, not worth killing, but one that is worth killing is the Red Mother. Before I show you her, we'll quickly go into all of the loot that you can get from those skeletons. You have a couple of bits of armor, some better than others. The Commander's Chest, I quite like it for being medium and adding quite a lot of armor value plus that 60 health. You have a Scorpion Harness, which is cleansing, which means it will get rid of your corruption. If I was to put that on, I would slowly lose my corruption, which is quite nice. We have the exquisite silk bits of armor. We have the pants and the top. They are what they are. We have one of the best gas masks in the game, as it has a lot of armor and looks quite snazzy. We have the Legacy of the Nordheimer, which will give us predominantly cold protection, but a little bit of heat protection and a chunk of armor. Not as good as something that you craft yourself, but you can't craft anything with quite that much cold resist until you get the Godbreaker things. I'm pretty sure that doesn't even have that much. We have the Scorpion Helm, which goes with that harness, but it doesn't do cleansing. I'm pretty sure it just has a whole bunch of different stats now. I don't even think it's a gas mask. We have the Night Stalker mask, which will enable us to see at night. It's quite fun, but it's, well, in dark places also. It's a little bit gross in the snow, so don't wear it there. Or the War Dancer chest piece, if you want a fancy little chest piece. That is light armor and quite cute. It's a lot more armor than your regular light pieces and gives you strength damage. The War Mammoth boots, we've got a little bit of insulation and some extra carry capacity, which is a lot more than what you would get from, say, the Legion boots. Then we have a whole lot of weapons, like the Rage Hammer, which is a Rage Hammer which gives Berserk. I never really benefit from that. The Maelstrom, just basically a regular Warhammer, no armor penetration. And I don't think it gives anything else particularly fancy. A lot of these have changed and I haven't used a lot of them in a great deal since they have changed, so I might be missing some hidden stats somewhere, but for the most part I don't think so. The Drunken's Blade is a one-handed sword that when you smack an enemy, you will get them drunk. It's quite fun. Quake is a sundering now. Having sunder on a mace like Quake means I will do even on light attacks. There's no good examples around here. I'll fly it into here because usually it's on every couple of heavy attacks on a war mace, but I can hit him with a light attack and do sunder. I can also hit him with a heavy and do sunder, but yeah. We have the Gas Sword, which looks really cool. It's another one-handed sword and it gives people corruption when you hit them. Mostly it just looks really cool and shimmery. Very close there. Makes for a nice skin. Heated Argument, in theory, gets person hot when you hit them with it. Oop, I skipped a couple. Spectre's Bane, much like the right sword from the regular legendary loot boxes, this has a spectral coating and also does cripple. We have the Lying Bastard sword, pretty stripped by itself, but you can equip it to other axes and hide an axe as it because it in fact performs like one, so you'll get extra reach. Corrupted Axe, another axe that will give people corrupted when hit them. Crom's Sword, I do believe you can now equip it to thralls again, but when you use it, it will use all of your stamina. Even though it has high damage, it's not very good for that reason. Unless they have actually brought it back on thralls. I don't know, they change their mind all the time whether you can or you can't. We have the Festering one. Unlike a lot of these other ones with stat bonuses, it is already poison, so it doesn't matter that you cannot put poison on it. Because most of these, yeah, you can't, by the way. Just can't put poison on them. Boop, won't work. You can on the Sword of Crom because it doesn't have an added stat bonus. But the Festering one is always poisoned and is pretty decent health. You can put an armor pen kit on it. We have the Ghast Axe, much like the Ghast Sword, does corruption and looks fucking sick. So glowy. But from this lady, the Red Mother, we can get a bunch of cool things. She's much easier to kill now than what she was. She dropped us the God's Eye this time, which is a pretty snazzy eye patch, light armor, and does strength increase. It's kind of meh unless you literally just want a snazzy eye patch that looks like every other eye patch. You can also get a horned helmet. It does a bunch of armor. Apart from that, it doesn't have any cold or heat resist. Dragon scale helm, max. It is pretty decent for medium armor, not gonna lie. But you can get some Fangs of the Red Mother, which are a nice throwing axe. The Reach of the Red Mother, one of the better, I was gonna call it an axe, what's it called? A bow in the game. Blade of 7 Winds, if you like a katana. It's quite katana-y, although you can always get the Musashi's Black Blade now over pretty easily at Almariah's. We can also get the Lifeblood Spear. When it first came out, it was OP and broken. You equip it to slowly regen your health. Doesn't really work that great now. And it's kind of as a spear. You have the Reach of the Final Breath of the Red Mother. One of the best torches because it has a really long durability and a fancy blue glow. If I could not be inside of a dragon. Really makes my corruptive veininess look awesome. Not too far away from her, we have the Brute. You may have seen my separate little guide on him. He's one of the easier dudes to come and pick off with just basic legendary stuff that you picked from somewhere else. I'm not gonna fight him like I haven't fought any of these bosses. This time we got the Helm of the Brute, excuse you, which gives strength. It's a medium armor, pretty decent if you don't have anything better. We also can get the Gauntlets of the Brute, which gives stamina. The Predator Blade, which is one of my favorite swords. It only works on light attack though, so be warned. We can also get the Shank, which do cripple and bleed, so therefore one of the best daggers. And he's just over here. Oh, and I don't think I showed you where the Red Mother was. She's here at the spawning pools. And there's only one last 3 skull to fight here. That's not a snake that drops a legendary key. That doesn't, I don't even think have a box in there. Maybe there is a box in there now. I'll check in a second. There was, but they were taking things like that out. I haven't double checked. I'll go check. But the Winged Death, White Death, whatever his name is, he can drop some Verminhide gear. Used to give you 1 stat to everything, but now it just gives you some double stat health and agility weapons. It's way less good than it used to be, but yeah. You can also get some quivering arrows and the riptide, which enables you to breathe underwater indefinitely when held, which is a much better alternative than the mask. Your breath will go down still wearing the mask, but not whilst holding the riptide. Nope, doesn't look like there's a box in here, but you can potentially get a relic fragment over here. So you might as well just avoid the poisony snake. Now you know who drops what and what is a bit more worth farming and focusing on than others. I hope you have a lot of fun out there grinding the different bosses to get your essentially free legendaries, aside from a little bit of labor. I've been ILLIBET. If you're not already, consider subscribing, and if you did like this content, smash that like button. It means a bunch. Stick around for another guide on Conan Exiles, where we'll be exploring a bunch of different recipes and where to get them to actually make your own armor that is much better than a lot of these. Or alternatively, check out one of my other dungeon guides where I go into a lot of that stuff independently. Until next time, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, night, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you may be. Have a good one.